So I've been playing Silent Hill Shattered Memories. You know, the Silent Hill fanbase is one of the most critical fanbases out there. Most fanbases are kind of annoying, because they protect their thing as a sort of godlike entity devoid of criticism. But the Silent Hill fanbase has been very critical of the series ever since it's been getting outsourced to Western developers, which is pretty great. I mean, liking something is fine, but being critical of what you like is also very important. But regardless of all the harsh critique imposed on games like Silent Hill Origins and Homecoming, Shattered Memories has fared pretty well under the skeptical eye of the fanbase. I think that's mostly because the game is actually trying to do its own thing, rather than being a misinterpreted recreation of the other games. Which is pretty ironic, considering that this game actually is a reimagining of the first game. Luckily, it takes its liberties and ends up being very different. I mean, the only thing that these two games really have in common is the plot synopsis. Because in terms of gameplay and the way the story actually unfolds, it's completely different. Anyway, the story of this game follows the tale of Harry Mason looking for his lost daughter after being in a car crash. Only this time, Harry suffers from memory loss.
I guess you could say he has shattered memories.
Because of his broken mind, Harry visits a psychologist called Dr. Kaufman. Kaufman asks him, and the player, a bunch of personal questions that affect the way the game plays out. You see, the game is split up into two sections: Harry traversing the streets of Silent Hill and the psychologist sessions. In the sessions, you have to answer questions and participate in a number of psychological tests. Like I said before, these affect the game. For instance, coloring your dream house pink will actually make it pink. The effect these questions have on the game are really quite cool, although mostly cosmetic, and I also like the way how the game changes depending on how you play. I mean, if you look at tits the whole time, the game will actually react to that by becoming increasingly more sexual. Still, the questions in question seemed a little superficial to me. I mean, I like the idea, but I would have liked to see the game dig a little deeper than it already has, and maybe be a bit more confrontational to the player. Especially since the game starts up with this big glaring warning about it. Thing is, the game is confrontational towards Harry, not so much towards the player. It does give a little psychoanalysis thing during the credits, but it always stays very safe with the things it says. And I get that getting to know the player's deepest secrets through a few simple questions isn't easy, and I definitely appreciate the fact that the game tries it still just didn't really do what I hoped it would. I mean, the way it affects the game is really cool, I just hoped it would have affected me as well. Anyway, in the parts where Harry traverses Silent Hill, you'll be controlling Harry as he traverses through Silent Hill. In a stark contrast to the games prior to this one, the game features no combat at all, and it now has a third-person over-the-shoulder type camera angle. So, no more crazy cinematics, which I'm honestly a little disappointed with. However, this new camera angle does create a really tense atmosphere in its own way. Thing is, Battered Galleries is really dark, so outside of what little range your flashlight has, you're pretty much blind. This, combined with Harry's rather slow walking speed, and the fact that the camera gets all up close and personal, makes for a pretty tense yet strangely calming atmosphere. Also, Harry carries a cell phone. He can use it to check the map, take photos, and make and receive phone calls and messages. Now, the map in this game feels a little pointless. Thing is, the game is very linear, and I rarely ever had to look at it. Part of me wants to say that it's kind of an improvement, because constantly switching to the map screen like in the original games does get a little annoying sometimes. But I also really like the idea of entering an area, checking the map, and seeing all the possible places you could go, and then going off to find out if you could actually go there. This gave the original games the feeling that the areas you visited were much bigger than they actually were. But the only thing the map really does here is show waypoints. Now, in Battered Galleries, you'll mostly find yourself walking through corridors with little to no doors, or walking the streets of Silent Hill, which have huge heaps of snow that clearly indicate when an area is inaccessible. So the problem you'll be having in this game isn't figuring out where you need to go, it's figuring out how to get rid of the obstacles in your way that keep you from getting there. but the map doesn't really show any information regarding that, so having it there just seemed a little pointless to me. Now, what I do really like about the phone are all the random voicemail messages you can find that further elaborate on the town's history. The Silent Hill games always have a very cryptic way of storytelling, and I really like the way how they implemented that here. You can also call random phone numbers you'll find on signs and posters along the way. Now, something that is drastically different here in comparison to the other games is the absence of combat, and the way the game treats the other world. Instead of all the rusty, bloody, gory stuff, the town will now quite literally freeze. Like I said before, you don't fight, you run away. I feel like they may have taken a few pages from Amnesia or the Penumbra games, because they really tried to go for that thrill of the chase type of things that those games are known for. However, I honestly feel that the chases here aren't all that scary. Thing is, the monsters that chase you really don't pose any kind of threat. When one ends up catching you, you can just shake it off like it's none of your business. And should you die, you'll just start right back where you were. So there really isn't any penalty for dying at all, which makes the chases very unintimidating. That said, I could imagine this being really tedious to play through if they actually were very hard. So yeah, I'm not really sure how exactly I feel about this. Now, of course, this wouldn't be a Silent Hill game without puzzles. The puzzles in this game are really inconsistent with their difficulty. Sometimes a puzzle is literally opening a cabinet, and other times it's a bunch of cryptic bullshit you need to unravel. Some are really tough, and others are just piss fucking easy. Also, in the PS2 version, which is what I played, all of the motion control shit is still intact. So instead of awkwardly flailing your arms around like an idiot, you have to move a cursor at the lightning speed of molasses to do something that could have easily been done with a simple press of the X button. Apart from a couple of puzzles heavily based around the idea, I really don't see why this had to be left in like this. Now, in terms of atmosphere, I'm glad to say that the music is still composed by Akira Yamaoka. I honestly think that the biggest part of making a Silent Hill game feel like a Silent Hill game is the music. No matter which direction the series goes in, having his music in there would still make it instantly recognizable as Silent Hill. Now, along with the game's general theme, the tone of the music has also changed. During most cutscenes and walking segments, the music is a bit more laid back and jazzy, while still maintaining the melancholic vibes the series is known for. And during the chase segments, the music is frantic and mechanical, and it gives the rather dull chases a highly needed shot of adrenaline. The game also claims to have this cool new feature called dynamic music. I honestly barely noticed it happening, which could either mean that it works or that it barely ever happens. I did, however, hear the music glitch out a little bit here and there.
Not long now.
Graphically, the game still has the same grainy and dark look as the previous games. The only big difference here is that everything is snowy and cold rather than misty, and it's actually done pretty well. I mean, you can practically feel just how cold it is from the visuals. The lighting in this game is also done really well. I mean, it does spaz out a little bit here and there, but considering that literally every snowflake in this game casts its own individual shadow, it isn't a very big deal. Also, the game seems to run at 60 FPS, which makes all the little details like the snow look even better than they would otherwise. The only problem here is that with every door you open, the frame rate completely shits itself. It's not that much of an issue when you're just minding your own business, but during the chase sequences it does get a little annoying. Anyway, despite having some issues, I'd totally say it's still a pretty good game. I mean, it's not gonna make you violently shit yourself with orgasmic joy or anything like that, but I'd definitely say it's still a very enjoyable experience, even if it is mostly for the story. Thing is, the game sets up a plot that seems to be really predictable, but takes it in a direction I really didn't expect it to go, which is why I barely touched upon it. So, yeah, this was supposed to be a shorter video. Well, fuck.